Aren't LP providers incentivized to pull out their liquidity of Hex before the fork? Who wants to take this one?
Yes, but some won't take that. They won't do that because it's too lucrative for them at the moment, right? So, there's going to be guys that stick around and continue providing liquidity for eHex naturally, right? There's profit to be made there. So they're going to keep their liquidity there and let it bake.
You think even so we know, go ahead.
I was going to say, just on that same rant that all of us were just on, so providing LP is really valuable, and now no one's going to want to do it, which means whoever does it gets paid a lot. So they're going to be exposed to a bunch of rampant and permanent loss, but they're going to have really, really high APYs. So if you're looking at it, hey, it's 5, 6 cents, it runs to 10, whatever it does in there, right? If you're assuming it's going to get back there again, or that, again, if you're one of the players like Dylan was talking about that has all the Hex in the world, I wasn't going to sell it anyway. I'll provide liquidity, let it shake out, do its thing. I'll have a bigger share of the pool. I'll just take the yield.
What is the case for either of you? What is the case for keeping your liquidity, whether it's Hex USDC, Hex ETH, Hex Hedron? I know they all have different dynamics, but what is the case for keeping liquidity and not pulling it before the fork? Or is that just a bad idea all around? Or does it depend on the pairs?
So Hex Hedron doesn't have to, because Hex and Hedron's relationship will be the same on either side. And both those are going to be supported. So if it's Hex Hedron, probably just do whatever you're doing now. Unless you're just concerned again about the volatility of the pairs. And then again, you can say, hey, I don't want to play that game, or those that stay in are probably going to have very, very high yield. When it comes to USDC versus the ETH, so the USDC won't be harvested by the AMM, but those pools are going to get wrecked. And since there's going to likely be DEX aggregators up pretty quick, no one's going to hold the monopoly PUSDC, and you're just going to get just drenched on there, and probably not enough fees to cover that up, because that pool is not really likely to recover. So
that's what I was going to say on that. Do you think the fees would make up for it? The bananas volatility or whatever we expect to happen, is that a play of I'm okay getting just murdered? I'm okay with getting all the USDC that's worth us at the end because of all the fees I made on the east side beforehand. Is that anything to that?
It could. And it depends again how you value those copies on the other side, right? So let's say we don't get a heads up. Let's say this takes another week, right? Everyone's getting antsy now. We start to see liquidity pool. Like if you get 3 weeks, a month, maybe it takes 60 days. Hey, I don't know if you guys have heard this thing was going to come out mid-May for a long time now, right? Jokes aside. So if you
May 2023,
still not
right. So if you assume, hey, there's a longer period of, restlessness than we think, right? We see that, you're like, okay, let's basically assume that, hey, I just get what I get on the copy side. I'm going to get 30 cents on the dollar, whatever they're worth over there. When I get to this huge APY along the way, maybe the position works out price positive. So some of that would just depend on like timeline function there. But I think in general, there's not that many like small liquidity providers really in that pair. So I think those people would probably just pull out and load their positions, but they're a pretty small percentage. The big guys probably already know what they're doing. So this is, it's more just conjecture. Those guys will make their own play, whether they want to just ride out the risk versus taking the copy side. But ETH, you'll end up being bought up. So you'll end up basically just like selling your Hex cheap for some PLS. So, and that pair is going to recover. So the Hex PUSDC is the one that if you're not going to pull, once you're on the other side, you're going to want out. And so where you'll have, say, the eHex USDC, that pair is going to be volatile, and you might have some impermanent loss, but it's going to come back. Whereas the PUSDC Hex thing is just going to, and then once it's filled with PUSDC, there's no reason to interact with it anymore. You'll just have, 95 Hex in there at a billion PUSDC, and then no one's going to be willing to come in and pay them. So that would be the one that if you're a smaller player, that would be the one I'm most likely to pull.